Have you started recording it, Focus? Okay, so my opening statement is basically that I'll be taking the position that I believe the Trinity entails logical contradictions, insofar as there are going to be entailments which contradicts one of the propositions of Trinitarianism. I'm going to be defending the anti-Trinitarian position insofar as I believe the logical contradiction entailed from Trinitarianism. My opponent's Val will be defending the negation. He'll be arguing for Trinitarianism, or rather, he'll be giving critiques towards my argument against Trinitarianism as far as the logical contradictory profile is concerned. Now, do you have any opening statement you know to give, or do you want to just get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation? It's up to you.
To start.
Okay, got you. So you'd agree that, like, of course, Trinitarianism is going to be affirming that this is the case that you're worshiping. It's a monotheistic concept, where you're worshiping one God. However, you believe that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, they are going to be identical to God. They're going to be, well, depends if you believe they're identical or not, but rather they share the same divine essence. They're God, right? They're different persons. They're three different persons, but the same being, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe there's a contradiction insofar as if you combine that with a biblical content, you realize that it could not be the case that this is even true. All of these things are true simultaneously. So we'll just focus on Jesus, right? So you'd agree that the Son is God-given Trinitarianism, correct? Hello? Hello?
I said yes.
Okay, got you. So the Son is God. That means that the Son possesses the divine nature, the divine essence, correct? That means he has the omniproperties, and that would also indicate that it is the case that he would actually be unlimited power, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so the fundamental problem is this. So if Jesus is the Son, right, then it would be the case that one of these two things are true. That would mean that Jesus, at the time at which he's on earth, would possess two contradictory natures, i.e., he has unlimited power and he has limited power in virtue of him being a human being. If Jesus is not the Son, then that means the Son will still not be the divine essence or still not share the divine essence because of Mark 13:32 verse, which states that no one, including the Son, knew the power. So which one is it?
Yeah. So he'll just have like unlimited power still, but physical limitations due to him purposefully limiting himself by
Yeah, that's a
gaining a
contradiction.
human body. Well,
Yeah,
how?
can I ask you a question? Do you know the omnipotence paradox?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your answer to the omnipotence paradox? Can God create a rock that he cannot lift? Yes or no?
No, because omnipotence generally refers to
Okay.
logical possibilities.
Yeah, so concession accepted. So that means it is not the case that God could purposefully limit his power, just like in the case of the omnipotence paradox, whereas he cannot purposefully limit his power so that he cannot lift a rock. There you go. So that point is just incorrect. Now that means that leaves us with the other part, which is simply, do you believe that? So you believe that Jesus is the Son, correct?
How does it follow that first point? How does that follow?
Because of the fact you agreed that in the case of the omnipotence paradox, God cannot create a rock that he cannot lift. If he created
Yeah.
the rock he cannot lift, then that means he can create something which would automatically establish a limitation in his power. But you agree that he cannot do this purposefully. So the same logic applies to the case of what you're talking about here, where Jesus cannot purposefully limit his power. For him to purposefully limit his power indicates that he both has unlimited power and a limited power. That's a contradiction.
So pretty much is the case that when Jesus gets a physical body, right? It's simply just like a physical representation of an abstract omnipotent thing. That's pretty much what it is. It's not like he's limited and unlimited at the same time. It's a physical representation,
Well, that
and
doesn't really work, right? Because the idea is simply that either it is the case that Jesus possesses the human nature or he does not possess the human nature, or the Son possesses the human nature when the Son is Jesus. If that was
yeah,
to be the case, it was a contradiction, right? Like,
I don't
nonetheless, it
think
doesn't matter if it's a
wait,
representation or not. What's up?
I don't think like human nature is like some sort of thing that Jesus actually got. It would just be the case that he had a human body, right? I'm not saying it's a human nature. When we say human nature in
Does
that
he have the
context, it would just
properties
be
of a human? And so, was he a human?
yeah, that's what I said. Physical properties,
Yeah,
those
that's what I
are
mean when I say
what we
that's what I mean when I say he has the human nature. That means he possesses the essential properties which makes a human human. Like, for example, he's a biological creature. He's a physical being. He needs a water to survive. He needs food to survive. He obviously does things which humans do, and he has physical limitations that human beings possess. That's what I mean when I'm saying that he has a human nature.
It just wouldn't follow to like it being a paradox because I already said it's a representation. Like we've already seen this in multiple
Yeah, but
cases.
it
For
being a
example,
representation
fictional
just includes the
scenarios.
fact that these are things true of Jesus or the Son at the time when he was in the human body.
No,
So
those
that
are
doesn't
wait,
change the
no,
fact.
those are things true of the representation of the power, right? All right, let's take like other humans within the Bible, right? The Bible affirms the soul as existent and as an essential property of every being, right? And it's abstract. So it'll just be the case
I'm
that
not saying the soul is an essential
the-
property of everything, so I'm just going to deny that proposition.
no, I'm saying according to the Bible.
Yeah, but that just begs the question. Right? So we're specifically arguing against the Christian notion when you're basically using the Bible, which I'm landing an internal critique against. But I don't want you to deflect from the actual points here. The point I'm making is even if Jesus, or even if I could say Jesus at the time of being a human being on earth, is a physical representation of the Son, the point of the matter simply is that when he was the Son on earth, as Jesus Christ, as you guys say, it would still be the case that he would possess a human nature because if he did not possess human nature, he could not be a human being. That's just a necessarily true fact. So the idea simply follows from this idea that you cannot say that the Son is God because for they say the Son is God, that would mean that the Son possesses the divine nature. But you're claiming at the same time that such a being which possesses the divine nature also possessed the human nature because he was Jesus Christ, which is the human physical incarnation of the Son. That's a contradiction.
I think that just assumes like the human nature being indexed to physical properties, which I'm denying. For the point of like whether or
You're
not the
denying the
Bible is
human
true or
nature being
false.
indexed to
Wait,
physical properties? Wait, back up, hold on. You're denying human nature being indexed to physical properties because that's just an
yeah,
analytical fact. That's true by
yeah,
definition.
yeah. Wait. Yeah, I think like for example, if you cut off someone's hand, right? If I cut off my hand, it would just be the case that that hand wouldn't be identical to me anymore. It's not identical to me. My hand, I am not my
Well, that's
hand,
just a
but
bad
my hand is
argument,
just a
right?
part of me. Yeah,
Like I don't
wait.
know
So
who
I'm
you
pretty
are. I
much
don't know
making
who you are, but look, I don't know who you are. But irrespective of not knowing who you are, I never expect you to make a terrible argument like that, right? I'm not saying the hand is identical to the
yeah.
person itself. You understand this, right?
Wait.
What's
Yeah,
up?
I'm simply making the case that like the physical properties of humans are simply like accidental properties and they aren't essential properties of a human. Therefore, they cannot actually qualify for human nature. That's simply the case I'm making.
Okay, so I'm not saying that. So you're not getting it. I'm saying that once you're a human being, you possess the human nature. Jesus was once a human being. That means he possessed the human nature at that time. That's the whole idea. Now, while he was a human being, Jesus was also identified to be the Son because you guys identified Jesus Christ to be the Son. Now, the Son, given your guys' own conceptual analysis of the conceptual scheme of what the Son actually is, possesses the divine nature. Now, you cannot have a specific entity X which possesses both the divine and the non-divine. That's a contradiction. That's the whole point. You're not getting the actual arguments here.
Yeah, I understand your point now. I'll just make the key. I'll just make like proposition that a human nature and the divine nature can coexist. For example, like the divine nature being abstract, and I already made the case for a physical representation of something already greater abstract. We've already seen this, like even in fictional cases with avatars. So it simply be the case that the representation has the human nature and is not divine, whilst the divine being himself has the
Can you
divine nature
have
and is not a
can
human.
you have can I ask you a question? Can you have okay, so let's say you have one given object X, which is non-physical. Can you have something or can that non-physical thing possess a physical nature?
Yeah, I'm already saying that the divine being, the abstract, the true
Wait, was
Jesus
it the
Christ,
yes
or
or no
the
to my
form.
question? Because I don't want you to deflect and go on to a different point. Just back up and just go back to the actual question and answer it. Can you have a non-physical thing where that non-physical thing possesses a physical nature? Yes or no?
Yeah, in specific cases, like the context I'm making, yes.
So the answer is yes. You can have a non-physical thing which possesses a physical nature. So hold on a second. Just to be clear, a non-physical thing is something which is not physical, right? That means it does not possess physical facts. So for you to say that you can have a non-physical thing with physical facts is going to be a contradiction.
What?
Yeah, I'm saying that the whole idea just agreed on entails a contradiction.
Yeah. I don't see how, because the case I'm
I
making
just explained out.
simply
What do you
that.
think the definition of a non-physical thing actually is? What do you think it means for
Yeah, but
something
I'm
to be
saying,
non-physical? Wait, don't go
yeah,
off to a different point. Just focus on the one point. Let's just stay on track. What does it mean for something to be non-physical?
generally something that's like beyond or above the constraints of physicality.
Beyond or above the constraints of physicality? What does that mean?
Yeah, just going by.
Okay,
definition.
gotcha,
Usually
cool.
is
So
some.
it's beyond and above the constraints of physicality. And is this necessarily true for non-physical thing by definition? Yes or no?
I mean, there are some mind-dependent non-physical things which
Wait,
aren't
wait, hold on.
above
No, no, no,
the.
no, 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 no. That's irrelevant. Look, I'm asking you, is it necessarily true that a non-physical thing transcends and is not limited by physical stuff? Yes or no?
Yeah, if it's a mind-independent thing, then yes.
Okay, so that means that it's true, and given this be mind independent, got you. So that's another concession. Here's the concession. Now, God is non-physical, and you believe that God, which Jesus is identical to, purposefully limited his nature when he was on the earth. Now, given your own view, that's a contradiction because you believe that it is necessarily true that for any non-physical thing, which is mind independent, it could not be the type of thing which is limited by physicality because it transcends and is not limited by the physical world. So for it to say this being, which is God, which is non-physical, to be the type of being which is limited by the physical world, is a contradiction, given your own concept.
Oh yeah, so that's just not the claim I'm making. When I say a physical representation, I'm saying
That's
that
not the claim you're making, but that's the
God.
entailment of the claim you're making right now.
No, it's not. Tell me, because the physical representation once more. It has physical properties. When I say something transcends the concepts or the limitations of physicality, that means that physical properties could still be like intrinsic to it or could still be held within it,
I'll just
simply
ask you a
just
series
not
of
limited
questions
by
for those to
it,
kind of like
right?
shape through the baggage. Is Jesus God? Yes or no?
Yeah, Jesus is God.
Is God non-physical? Yes or no?
Yeah, God is non-physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus
Yes
is
or no?
also non-physical.
Wait, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
yeah,
So Jesus is non-physical. So law of transitivity
yeah.
entails that Jesus is non-physical. Now, if we're going to say Jesus is non-physical, and your definition of non-physical is that which transcends and is limited by the physical world, and then you also said that this thing is a necessary fact, then necessarily speaking, there could not be a case where Jesus is limited by the physical world. However, your point is simply that he was in fact limited by the physical world because he purposefully allowed that to happen. Now that debunks you being a necessary fact for him to not be limited by the physical world, hence entailing a contradiction in your metaphysical position. There you go.
See, that's not what I said, right? I said Jesus
Okay, we can
created, like,
metaphysically.
Jesus is still non-physical, and then he still created like a physical representation or a being to take or to have like a human nature on earth. So Jesus himself is fully divine, right? But the representation is fully human. Those two beings coexist as part of like the same being because
That would
Jesus
just collapse.
derived. Wait,
If
wait, wait,
Jesus,
wait,
if Jesus
wait.
is, hold on, if Jesus was Jesus a human being? Yes or no?
Yeah, you're conflating the two. Like
Wait,
you're
just answer my
conflating like
question.
the
Is he a human being?
abstract
Yes or
being.
no?
Yes, but you're
Was
conflating
Jesus a
the
human? Okay,
abstract
so that
being
means
with
he was not. That means
the
he could not be 100% divine because the properties of a human being, by definition, is going to be something which else you'd not being divine because you're a physical object. You cannot be divine while being physical. You can't be omnipotent while
yeah.
being physical. That's a contradiction.
I just said you're conflating the divine being with the physical representation. Right? When I say Jesus was
I'm not
human and had a
conflating
human
anything.
nature, I'm referring to the physical nature, right? And
No, I'm saying
obviously,
that
if we,
Jesus cannot be the divine being while I'm saying Jesus cannot be the divine being while being the physical representation of the divine being. That's a contradiction.
yeah, pretty much
Because
it's
to be the
two
physical
Jesus. That's
representation,
what I'm saying.
being
There's
the
two
physical
Jesuses,
representation
right?
when you're the physical representation of something, you'd have to be something which possesses physical characteristics. And these
Uh huh. Yeah, I
characteristics are going
said.
to be essential aspects of the physical object. Now, that's going to be incompatible with him being God or being the divine
Yeah,
being. Now, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I already said like physical properties could be derived from non-physical properties because I already defined something as non-physical
Okay.
simply
Okay.
being something that transcends
Here's the
limitations
argument
of
you should be given
physicality.
right now. I'll give you a pro tip. Here's the argument you should be given. What you should be saying is something like Jesus is not actually the Son, and the Son is separate from the incarnation of Jesus, or they're not the same thing. They're not identical. It's not true to say that Jesus is the Son. However, it is true to say the Son is God. And then now, when you give that argument, which is much better than the argument you're giving right now, I'll just respond by saying, okay, well, the Son being God is contradicted by Mark 13. So, anyways,
By Mark what?
13:32 verse. So I'm giving you a better argument right now. A better argument is you embracing the fact that Jesus is not the Son, right? And then you establish that the Son would still be God, which is going to be something which preserves the veracity of Trinitarianism. And then I'll just respond by asking you, or rather by saying, that the Son could not be God because of Mark 13:32 verse, whereas the Son did not know the hour, which entails him not being omniscient.
I mean, that's pretty much similar to my argument because I'm simply making the case that there's two Jesuses, the physical representation, which is derived from
There are two
the
Jesuses?
abstract thing. Wait, yeah, I have to say
Huh?
that there's two, right?
Huh?
Wait, there's not actually,
There are two
bro,
Jesuses?
let me
Wait, hold
finish.
on.
Let me finish.
You
Let me
want to die
finish.
on the hill of there being two Jesuses?
No, no, let
You
me
see what
finish.
you want to down this hill?
No, there's not
Huh?
actually two Jesus. I just said that to like prevent conflation, right?
Wait, but they just
I
said two
said,
Jesus. You said two Jesuses. Did I not hear
I
correctly?
made
Or?
I made the physical representation distinct from the abstract being, right? To actually
Oh,
make
so we
it
have two
easier to
sons now.
understand.
So we have two sons?
No,
Huh?
no, that's not what I said.
Which one is
That's
it?
not what I said.
Wait, so you're saying we
Yeah,
have
the
two
physical
Jesuses?
representation. Wait, I'm saying that there is
You're
a
just
physically represented. There's the incarnation, right, which is derived from the abstract
okay.
being.
So the
The abstract
incarnation is
being is
not God.
Jesus.
The physical
I mean,
representation is not God, correct?
the incarnation is still God because it's derived from God.
Wait,
That's
how
the
can the
entire point I'm
incarnation be
making.
God if the incarnation is physical and you claim that God is non-physical? That's retarded.
Yeah, I already made the claim with my definition that something non-physical already
Wait,
includes the
back
attributes
up.
or
Hang on.
physicality.
No, try to focus here. Okay, you said the incarnation is physical, right? So if you're going to say the incarnation is physical, but God is non-physical, that's a contradiction. Can I be both physical and non-physical? Huh?
Yeah, the physical representation isn't
Hold on. Wait,
non-physical, but
hold
you
on. Real
can
quick.
be
Can I
physical
both
and
be physical and
non-physical.
non-physical? I can
Yeah,
be
you can
both
be
physical and
physical.
non-physical.
Yeah, under the wait, let me finish. Let me finish. If you let me finish, I'll explain how.
Sure.
Right? Yeah, because physicality is defined by a set of like properties. Something non-physical is simply just being
Wait, hold on. I don't think we
unconstrained
want.
by
I don't think
set
anyone in this
properties.
voice call wants a university lecture on what it means for something to be physical or non-physical. I just want you to answer my. So I'm asking you: can I both be physical and non-physical? Yes or no?
Yeah, under my definition of non-physical, yeah, you could be
Okay,
non-physical
so
and have
so
physical
under
properties.
is your definition an ASPL definition or the conventional definition that the normal human being would actually not autistic?
What?
Just trying to clarify. Trying to clarify if your definition maps onto what people actually mean with it. Okay, so just to be clear, a non-physical thing is a non-physical thing not physical?
Yeah, non-physical thing is non-physical in the sense that it's not limited to physicality. It's just
Okay,
unlimited.
and so it is the case that it's not physical. So you're saying that so you can have something which is not physical and is physical. You understand this is just a P and not P, right? This is just like a contradiction, right?
No, I'm making the case that it's not P and not P, right? Because I'm adding on. I'm saying
I know
something
you're making that
non-physical.
claim. I'm
It's pretty
saying
much
that the
something
agreement you're
physical,
making
but with
directly
added
opposes
properties.
ASPL argument. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I'm saying like under my definition, which you granted, right? It's just not being limited. It'll just be the case that like something non-physical is something physical, but with added properties to it that make it abstract. That's pretty much the entire
Okay,
claim I'm
so we
making.
can just wrap this
So
up.
something.
We can just wrap this up. So you can just wrap this. You've already blatantly conscious your own position multiple different times.
I mean,
And
sure,
just
I
to be clear,
guess.
I'm not trying to hold on. I'm not trying to like put you down or anything. Just do some research and then we can just debate about this topic again. I think like you've just committed the contradiction, but I admire the good faith conversation. It was not an aggressive conversation, and I like your demeanor. Just do some research into metaphysics and Trinitarianism, then we can perhaps have this conversation again. Okay? Good
Sure.
debate. Yeah.
That's it. All right.